Dylan Sampson, where does he rank among all-time Tennessee tailbacks, or where does this season rank among all-time Tennessee tailbacks?
I think this season, and I wanted to debate this, is the greatest season in the history of running backs for Tennessee football.
Running backs or a running back?
In the history of a running back. No running back has ever had a season this great.
Okay.
I think there are two that compete, and they don't have Dylan Sampson's numbers technically, but they come close. One that competes, believe it or not, Dave, is Jamal Lewis's freshman season at Tennessee. Jamal Lewis rushed for 1,364 yards that year. That was very close to the record. And he didn't even start until week 4. So if Jamal Lewis had started the whole season, he would have easily set the record. However, Dylan Sampson set the all-time rushing record for Tennessee on Saturday for a single season. He broke Travis Stevens' record, and he did it in one less game, by the way, in just 12 games. He has Gene McKeever. He has the all-time scoring record in Tennessee football history now. He's number 1 in scoring in a single season. He has the all-time touchdowns record in a single season for Tennessee. I can listen to an argument for Jamal Lewis because of what I just talked about. But at the same time, Dave, Jamal Lewis had a lot more open running lanes in 1997 because, there was this guy named Peyton Manning throwing the ball all over the field.
There was, and there was another factor to look at too. We're excluding some guys automatically because they had a split carries. Dylan Sampson was in a position where he was kind of the only guy. So if they'd had Peyton Lewis ready and he would have gotten 30% of the carries, then we're not even having this discussion. So he benefited from good fortune. So when you had Travis Henry and Travis Stevens, for instance, on the same team, they split some carries. I will tell you this with the eye test, and I know you get mad at me for using eye test all the time. First of all, he's a perfect fit for this system. So if you're running this system, I would take him over Travis Henry. And I don't think Travis Henry is a generational tailback like, I don't know, Saquon Barkley, who I think is really good. Then you have Arian Foster. Now, they have some similarities between the two. They got a lot of yards. They were the main go-to guys, and there were some fumbling issues. Not nearly as bad with Dylan Sampson as Arian Foster, but probably more comparable than you think. Then you get to James Stewart, Johnny Jones, Jamal Lewis. No offense to Stewart or Jones, but I think that Dylan Sampson is a better tailback. I think he's a better tailback than Cedric Houston. I think he's a better tailback than Jay Graham, which I can't believe I'm saying. I think he's a better tailback than Montario Hardesty because of health. I mean, if I go further down the list of the all-time rushing leaders at Tennessee, I would probably take a guy like Reggie Cobb if I just had him for 1 year, no matter what system, over Dylan Sampson. But in this system, you could make an argument that he's your go-to easy.
So eye test, I'm not going to knock you on that because there's 2 running backs that I think in Tennessee history you take eye test, assuming they are going to play at their peak. And that is Jamal Lewis and Chuck Webb. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
Those are 2 just freakishly talented running backs, right?
Totally agree. And if you know they're healthy and you're going into a season or you hope they're healthy, you would take them over Dylan Sampson, no question.
Yeah, you take them over any 2 running backs in Tennessee football history. Those are the 2 most freakishly talented running backs. But we've talked about Jamal Lewis in the past and how he kind of phoned in his last year at Tennessee. And production has to count. And I'm just going to throw one thing at you, Dave, with eye test. Eye test, I never saw a quarterback throw the ball better than Aaron Rodgers. I never saw somebody play quarterback better than Aaron Rodgers based on eye test. But you're taking Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers, right? Because of his production. You're taking Peyton Manning over Aaron Rodgers, right? Even though Aaron Rodgers throws the ball way better than those 2 guys and has way better tools in general. The production has to count. Dylan Sampson has the production, and he has it without the level of help. I mean, we talk about Chuck Webb and Jamal Lewis. Let's be fair to Chuck Webb. He only played half a season, and then he got hurt. But they both had a much more dominant passing attack backing them up. And not that Nico Eberle was not good. We're going to talk about Tennessee peaking at the right time a little bit later. But look, this 3-3-5 and the way defenses have schemed against Tennessee this year has really taken out the power of the passing game. So Dylan Sampson has become, and we're calling him second half Dylan. He's playing like, I can't believe I'm saying this, and my brother said this to me over the weekend, and he was right. He's like Alvin Kamara, but Dave, he plays like Derrick Henry. Because what does he do? He wears you down until in the fourth quarter, he gashes you. Or another, before Derrick Henry, do you remember when Eddie George would do that for the Titans back in the day?
Yep, I do.
He would only average about 3.5 yards a carry, but you would get worn down so much tackling him that he would gas you in the fourth quarter. Dylan Sampson's playing like that, even though his build is more like an all-purpose back.
Well, let me tell you, too, why Dylan Sampson fumbled, okay? And that's brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration, peakivhydration.com. Let me tell you why Dylan Sampson's special. And if you want to give him a little notch over another guy on the list, you can. Because we've talked to Cooper Mays on the Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, and he's told us what a leader that he was at the tailback position. And I don't think Cooper's going to make that up as an offensive lineman. An offensive lineman doesn't look at a skill position guy and say, oh, he's a great leader, unless he is. So I think you have to factor that in. And I think it's been evident on the field. When Dylan Sampson has said, I'm going to take over a game, the rest of his teammates have responded almost like he's a quarterback. So factor that in, and you probably notch him a little bit higher than you would otherwise.
Yeah, you absolutely do. That's a great point. And so with all, and look, we're going to be fair here because I went with Travis Stevens because Dylan Sampson broke Travis Stevens' record. I was going to tout Stevens' offensive line. Dylan Sampson had help with his offensive line too. The interior blocking this year was incredible. But can we say, Dave, whatever else you think, eye test, whatever, can you say this is by far the greatest single season a running back's ever had in Tennessee history? Even if you don't think he's the best running back?
Yeah, I'm fine with that because of the leadership ability. I think a lot of the guys, I don't think anybody looked at Travis Henry and thought, hey, there's a great leader. I don't think he needed to do that. I'm not knocking him, but I think you looked at Dylan Sampson and you thought, there's a great leader. Great.
And you don't ask your running back to be a leader like that. Oh, sorry. But you don't ask your running back to be a leader like that.
No. I think he's a special young man. Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports and Dave and Caleb said hello in downtown Chattanooga. Check them out. That's, Cooper was the first that tipped me off to Dylan Sampson. And it would have been going into last year before anybody thought he was special. And I just remember him saying, and you got to remember, Cooper is a guy that really loved recruiting and followed recruiting when he was in high school. He saw a special player and a special young man. And I thought Dylan Sampson was going to be really good. He exceeded my expectations, though, by a lot. I mean, does this team lose one more game or two more games if they don't have a Dylan Sampson?
Two. They lose to Alabama and Florida. They lose in both of those games without Dylan Sampson. And, I mean, there's just no way around that fact. And it's kind of interesting because I actually, even though I gave credit to the line, I see Dylan Sampson really wear down players in the second half. Look, since we're talking about the record set, Dylan Sampson broke Travis Stevens' single-season rushing record. Travis Stevens broke Jay Graham's single-season rushing record. You watched Jay Graham more than I did, but I did watch Travis Stevens, and I'm just going to say it. Travis Stevens was a cut and run guy with solid breakaway speed, but it felt like you could have just plugged anybody into that running game, didn't it? In 2001.
And I love the comparison with Alvin Kamara. I still wonder how different that offense would have been had they leaned on him more than Jalen Hurd.